Welcome to another episode of the Alignment Podcast. Today we have Morgan Snyder, longtime friend. We've known each other for at least 21 months.
At
Um,
least, maybe more.
who's counting? If you play around on LinkedIn at all, you've probably seen his stuff for the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I wanted to have Morgan on the podcast because he has a unique perspective on all things work and culture and how he may never say it like this, but how you can be aligned in your online presence and who you are in real life and what you're doing with work and what you actually care and value. So welcome, Morgan. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, 100%. I just have to correct you on one thing. It's only good. It's not bad or ugly. So
Yeah,
my
okay.
content is always good.
Yeah, the occasional haters think it might be bad or ugly, but
Just check my last post today. You'll see some. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great place to start. So I'm okay, so when we get started, I always ask people what they're to kind of give an elevator pitch of their career and then what you're most excited about right now.
I don't really have a really great career story because I was a Spanish teacher. I sold door-to-door alarm systems, and then I was a part of a healthcare consultancy which was really small. And then that healthcare consultant, my boss said, we're going to reconnect with a founder out in Utah and hope you'll come along with us for the ride. And so I moved my family out to Utah about 7 years ago. I was a part of that startup. I was on the investor relations team. We raised a seed and Series A round there. And then I was doing a little bit of the marketing and outreach for that for during that time period, and people came to me and said, "Hey, you made decks and email sequences and things like that. Why can't you do that for us?" And so I took on these small projects, and then once I felt like I had enough to sustain life and take care of my family, at least in the short term, I went to my wife and said, maybe I could do this by myself. And she said yes, and that was 4 years ago. So if you can consider that a career, then yes, that is my career journey. But I've been writing for CEOs and founders now for a few years, and predominantly on LinkedIn, a little bit on X and other platforms. But I help manage their thought leadership content and help them kind of come up with some social media strategy and PR for how they show up online.
So is that what you're most excited about right now too?
I would say what I'm most excited about is showing people how to properly use humor and how to use top of funnel content to start conversations with people and begin relationships, because ultimately that is the reason why people should be on social media, is to make friends and establish a point of connection and contact with people, not just to post for milestones and product releases and different things like that. It's really about humans. And so I'm trying to put a greater emphasis in my own content and my clients' content to just be more human, to be funnier, to go outside of like, this is how you 10x your marketing type of posts that we see so much in the feed. And I think that humor and comedy and satire is what I'm most excited about, because it outperforms everything else 5 to 1. And so I'm trying my best to understand what that is. And for the last 150 days, I've been on a journey or an experiment with that and have found really amazing results with it.
Is it just with like people laughing and liking things or actually drumming up new business?
Both. Yeah, I would say in the last 150 days, I've had more conversations, more exploratory calls than ever before, and more people subscribing to my newsletter. And I think that there's just a lot of goodwill that happens when you are human and you allow yourself to kind of come out of your comfort zone and actually have a take every now and again, instead of being lukewarm. Is, you actually stand for something and say something significant that may rub people wrong or may get you misunderstood. But I think that more than that, what generally happens is people are drawn to you and they want to be a part of your tribe because you're actually someone that's coming off with a cool take or an interesting take instead of being tepid. And so that's been a big difference maker.
No, that's interesting. So I know we've talked a lot about, kind of what is playing it safe online versus at one point you were like you're winning at LinkedIn if people literally laugh out loud at your
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
And so I mean you've posted your fair share of, dare I say, ridiculous things, like very funny, right?
Yes.
I have laughed many a times at at what you've posted. as you work with other people, right? How do you get to like actually helping people show up as they truly are, right? If somebody like probably very few people listening to this have actually met you, but like you're a funny guy sometimes. I'm just kidding. You're funny. Like it seems for me when I see your stuff, I'm like, oh, that's natural. That's just the musings of Morgan.
Yeah.
For somebody else who may not be as funny or like, what does that look like? What ways can they show up that's aligned, dare I say, with what they are?
Yeah, I think you don't have to necessarily have funny as the standard, or like I expect all my clients to be like Conan O'Brien or something, and then we're just going to expand on like a funny set or a bit or whatever. I don't think that that's right, or like the expectation is you must be funny to work with me, or like be willing to go as far as I go. I mean, I don't recommend anyone do the things that I do on LinkedIn because it works. It only works for me. It doesn't work for everyone else. Like none of my clients, just taking today as an example, none of my clients would want to post about how they think having girl dad or dad times three in their headline is kind of a stupid thing. And I know I riffed off that idea and I went sort of absurdist with it. Like I stretched it as far as I could go so I could get a greater reaction, hundreds of comments and so on. But I don't think that I'm the standard. What I'm really calling for is for each of my clients and for anybody that wants to be serious about social media and using it as a tool and the great resource that it is. I mean, in my situation, it literally changed my life. And so I do take it funny, but I also take it very seriously to match an archetype or a character to every one of my clients. I have a CEO who's starting from scratch. He's hardly ever posted. I mean, maybe twice in the 10 years that he's had a LinkedIn profile. And he has seen my stuff. So he came to our meetings thinking like, man, Morgan's going to pitch me some crazy ideas and really stir the pot from the very beginning of our engagement. And that's just not, it's not the case. What I really want to do is say, what is drives this person, what gives them energy, what are the topics or themes that they want to talk about, because obviously the clown archetype doesn't fit everybody. Some people are more like the mad scientist in the lab and they are working on things constantly, and they come out and they enter the room and there's like smoke around them and they're like, this is what I've been doing, these are the cool experiments I've been running. And then you have some people that fit more of like a news reporter archetype, where you imagine them on the TV and you're turning on a major news channel and they're there at the desk with their blazer on and they're like, let me give you the news. And so I try my best to think like, who is this person? What drives them? And then what are the stories we're now going to tell? And in the case of the CEO who had never been on LinkedIn hardly at all, I thought it was best for him to kind of lead out with, I don't really know what I'm doing here, or like what my big mission is. Like, obviously, you know me from some of my professional things here, and I have friends here, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And it was a picture of him, and it got 180 reactions, like one of his very first posts. And
Wow.
I know that some of that is just like the excitement, the initial excitement of seeing someone in a new place, because he is very, very good at what he does. And he probably has lots of outstanding relationships that come to that post and like want to support him for the first time. So we'll see what the rest of the life cycle of his content, so to speak, what happens there. But I think you just have to really think about yourself in those terms. Like, how am I going to present myself? Do I fit a character or an archetype? When some people call it tone of voice or brand voice. And I just think about it in those terms. In order for the content to come off well, it's also going to help the engagement and the metrics and all those things that we try to track as
And that's the same for a super well established, well known CEO and some junior copywriter.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think all of us go through the stages. We are uncomfortable, we're lurking, we're commenting every now and again, we post every now and again. We go through this really weird, I don't think I should say anything, maybe I should. Okay, now I'm going to, and now I'm going to be regular. And that time, like the amount of time kind of depends person to person, but we all go through it. And I just wish that more people at the very beginning would say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is how I want to talk. And then I just start doing it. because then instead of years going by and all of a sudden you feel comfortable enough and you're like, oh, I guess I'm worthy enough to say something now. Right from the beginning, you could start seeing the benefit, and you don't have to, you don't have to just torture yourself all the way through that. Like you just start going right away.
That's interesting. I had a boss, one of my first bosses, that he was a proud LinkedIn lurker. He'd be like all the time sending me stuff, and I was like, dude, I never literally never see you do stuff on there. He's like, oh yeah, I just lurk, and you know, he's like now C-suite at like a brand name that you would recognize, and he still literally never posts. But anytime I see him or we text, he'll like say stuff that he sees of from my LinkedIn. Like, this is how many people are just lurking, and
So many.
how many like like influential people,
Yeah.
in business. And when I say influential, like cool, they have a budget to spend. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I'm curious.
You got hundreds of millions of people that have accounts, right? I mean, you have like 200, 300 million people that have accounts, or I don't know what the official numbers are. But then you have like only 1% of the total users of LinkedIn are posting once a week or even once every other week. So there is a lot of real estate up for grabs. And I think people don't realize how important it is for you to have a steady stream of storytelling, of joke telling, of this is who I am and this is what I'm all about. I mean, it could literally change your business, change your life. It just takes one or two people, like you're saying, lurking around and going, that person really speaks my language. I want to talk to them. And then you're off to the races doing who the heck knows what.
So just to correct you, there's 1 billion LinkedIn members.
Hundreds of millions, a billion. I don't know. Maybe I
Uh,
was
that's
thinking hundreds. Yeah. Maybe I was thinking 999 million when I said 100.
Yeah, that's 1,000 millions is a billion. I know you taught Spanish, not math.
I know. I was close in my estimate. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Um, no, that is true. As you were talking about that, I was like, oh, how has LinkedIn changed my life? And I mean, we met because of a cold LinkedIn DM I sent end of 2021
Hmm.
to somebody. Saw a post, thought it's kind of crazy. I'm gonna add this guy. Messaged him, got a job offer, moved to Utah, and
Yeah. And then a CMO cold messaged me in a Costco, and all of a sudden I was in a lodge in Park City.
I know.
Met you, saw you there for the first time. And you were like, who are you? And I'm like, I don't know if I should introduce myself because I might not be here tomorrow. It might take me to a dark room, and that'll be my end.
It wasn't though. It
It
wasn't. It
wasn't.
was
It
just
wasn't.
it was just the beginning of the end, which is awesome. Okay, I'm curious, do you think it matters? Should people be careful with what they post on LinkedIn?
What do you mean?
Like if somebody works at a company, say I work at I don't know, Spotify. Like Spotify has pretty clear, you can go and see like what they really care about online. And there's CEOs outspoken. And maybe that's a bad example because it's a big company. But should individuals be concerned that their content they're creating aligns with their company?
I think you also, I mean, you obviously need to have conversations with compliance, HR, C-suiters, whoever is in charge of some of that outward facing messaging, and have conversations with them. I mean, I think that's really important. I know I sort of portrayed myself as a puppeteer of chaos with my own personal posts. Maybe that's why no major company would ever hire me internally. But I think that I think that you always need to check, there's checks and balances to everything. You need to be careful. But I think there's a really, really huge opportunity connected to people inside of a company, managers, VPs of organizations, whatever it is, to go to the people that are making those decisions and who ultimately have the say, and just say, we have a really cool thing that we can do together to not only snowball views and impressions and things like that, but like I said before, to forge connections with people that we've never touched before. And so if you have, instead of one CEO who's kind of the outspoken voice of the company, all of a sudden you can combine product and customer intelligence and marketing and all these different areas of a given business. And all of a sudden everybody is talking on LinkedIn, and they're all running their own quote unquote social media accounts by talking about things that are interesting to them, but they're also weaving in the narrative from their company. And so instead of having one CEO who's doing 1 million impressions a year, now you've got 10 executives and they're doing 10 million a year. And I don't know, like all the effects. I mean, it's different use cases and probably different scenarios that we would see exactly what happens there in terms of like fundraising leads, partnerships, and things like that happening, or like earned media, whatever it was. But I think if you have that conversation internally and you kind of position yourself as someone that cares about the reputation, controlling the stories that are being told to the company, I mean, that can do nothing but benefit you as an employee because it just shows them how much you care. And then in the meantime, you can also build your personal brand because they're not, unless there's some sort of control freaks, they're not going to care that much that you weave in a couple things about yourself. They want to have brand ambassadors, and you could make an entire group of brand ambassadors to go out and talk about your company and do something amazing, which very few are. I mean, I can only think of a few that are actually doing that successfully locally in Utah and nationally.
So, if somebody doesn't know what they should post on LinkedIn, how do you recommend they figure out get ideas?
Good ideas come in everywhere and anywhere. And I think it's really more of a practice than it is a creative exercise. And what I mean by that is when inspiration happens, you can just grab your phone, open up your notes app, and you just start detailing things. And if we had more time, I mean, I could show you. I have all of my content planned from here until next May, and I have 2 to 3 posts per week, and they're all really really good ideas. I'm very very careful now. I'm more careful than I've ever been about what is actually going to be published because it's got to be something that's really going to punch hard. And so I have a notes app basically open at all times, and I'm going through there and I'm like, this is good, this is not so good. I hate this altogether. I delete it. And these are things that are happening while I drive my daughters to ballet, while I'm at a premier soccer game with my son, when I'm on dates with my wife. Anytime that I am like just walking around doing my thing, ideas are coming, and it's only because I've practiced that. It's hard to get started, but once you realize that when you're talking to someone or when you're at an activity or even when you're just like reading, these ideas are coming to you and it's up to you to capture them. And once you have an effective capture system, then you can go and produce something amazing. And so that the idea that there's I don't have enough good ideas, or I just think that's a moot point. You do have good ideas. You just don't have a capture system. You don't have an ability to take what's happening inside of your mind and put it somewhere. And you'll be amazed once you can actually put it somewhere, the ideas will become better and better and better. And then it's just a matter of setting yourself up for which things do I want to talk about and what order and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's amazing what happens when you have a content system for yourself and you keep yourself accountable and responsible for capturing some of that inspiration. And because then it's just so easy. Then, after I've practiced it for 5 or 6 years now, you go to your notes app and you're like, yeah, maybe I don't want to talk about that today, but I have this other thing that's just equally as good. And then you go post it.
You should build an app for that.
Maybe I should.
That's you know who Darren McKee is, right?
Yes, I do.
Have you seen his 531 thing that he just came out with?
No, I haven't.
It's essentially like it reminds me of, you know, how do you hold yourself accountable to things that are useful? And just like, hey, here's activities that are useful, do this. And a similar thing. But that's sweet. When I asked that question, I was hoping you'd plug your book.
Yeah, well, I can. It's just it's on Amazon Unlimited. It's called Keep It Light. I have a weekly podcast called The Morgan Snyder Show, which talks about some of these things too. And I'm always writing on LinkedIn, and I'm writing a book about homeschooling right now, but the next book after that, I'm probably going to do it all about basically case studies about using humor and comedy and satire for social media for executives. Don't have a title for that one yet, but I'm basically going to detail everything that's happened to me in the last 5 or 6 months, because instead of talking about writing or talking about executive leadership or things like that, I've only posted funny things, which have really been social commentary about quote unquote thought leaders and how executives talk online. And it's like I said, it's performed better than ever and has done a lot to get some friends. So
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that I didn't have to make a funny post to become friends with you because I need to practice.
that's not the prerequisite. That's not a
The-
prerequisite. You don't have to, post silly things like I do, but yeah, I'm always happy to answer any questions, and I'm clearly always on LinkedIn. So the DMs are open. If you want to ask me any question, you can. I'm pretty good at responding back. You might get a voice note or a video message, so don't be creeped out by that. Just because I think texts are boring, and sometimes it may be easier for me to do that. So don't be weirded out if you do attempt.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Morgan, for coming on and sharing some of your insight. I'm excited to continue to see. My mind is blown that you have your content planned out for the next 6 months. So I'm excited to see these heavy hitters and be inspired.
I don't know if you'll be inspired, but they will hit heavy for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to laugh at these heavy hitters.
Thanks for having me, Jacob. I appreciate it.
But yeah,